Back with you for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast as we get ever so close to Chiefs training camp. Now, time to put the quarterbacks in line. We've done the coaches. How about the quarterback tiers? We'll find out who is in tier one. I assume we're all going to have Patrick Mahomes there. Does anybody join him? Who else can you win with? Who are the game managers? Who's just terrible? We're talking quarterbacks here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeffri Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeffri Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is the sports columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeffri Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. You heard it. Brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. A time to break down the quarterbacks and put them into tiers, not like tears that you shed, tiers as in quarterback, like groups, if you will. It's always a fun exercise. We have several years of them. I save where everybody puts them. Jeff, anything jump at you in putting together your list this time?
Well, and we did coaches last week, and I think it was the same kind of problem here. I thought I'd find myself disliking more quarterbacks than I actually did, but I think I wound up with a glut of quarterbacks in that mid-tier section that I had to really differentiate. One thing I didn't do, I didn't get caught up in quarterback battles. I went with the guys who were top of the depth chart right now. Like that changes for Russell Wilson and Justin Fields or Jacoby Brissett and Drake May, some those situations, then we can revisit this. But right now I'm going with the guys who I know who are starting training camp number one.
What about you, Sam? Anything pop at it before we get to breaking down the list?
Well, Jeff mentioned we did the coaching tiers last week, and he should be happy to know that all of my tiers this week have a label to them, a through thread, thread through all of everyone in the tier. So it might have caused me to have to tweak a couple of people where I put them, but there's a label to all of my tiers this week. Okay, all right, good to know. All right, let's start in tier one. Let's start at the top, Jeff. Who are the tier one quarterbacks in your mind?
It's singular in my list, and it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's obviously the no-brainer choice here. Last year, I think I had 4 or 5 tier one quarterbacks. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I'm sure it was some.
I can tell you. Would you like to know?
Yeah, go ahead.
Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts.
Okay, that sounds about right. So the thing that separates Mahomes now is 3 championships. He clearly is one of the top, in my mind, 3 quarterbacks of all time. We did that exercise a few weeks back. And really there's nobody else in this current crop who either has listed credentials or the potential to impact games in the way he does. There's a couple of guys and later on, like Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, who have championships. But the younger guys just haven't gotten there yet. And so to have Lamar Jackson with 2 MVPs or Joe Burrow, who I think is the toughest quarterback for the Chiefs to beat, Josh Allen, who's probably the second best quarterback arguably in the NFL, for those guys to be in the same category, they got to start winning championships. And so for me, it's just and really in the way he's probably won every which way you can do it. And going back to 2 years ago when he beat the Eagles on the bum leg, that just put him in a whole different stratosphere in terms of competition and competitor. So I think he's a one-man tier right now.
And I'm correct on this. Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers are the only other quarterbacks currently in the NFL that have won a championship, correct?
Russell Wilson's in that group.
And Russell Wilson. That's right. Yep. And Russell Wilson. So there are 3 quarterbacks besides Patrick Mahomes that have won a championship, and they've won 3 total.
Yep.
right? They've each won one total. Patrick Mahomes is as many as they do combined.
Yep.
And I'm with you. I have only Patrick Mahomes in my tier one, which is a big change for me because last year, big change in the sense that we gave Eager crap. Eager had only Patrick Mahomes in tier one. I had Mahomes, Burrow, and Josh Allen. But I'm with you. Back-to-back championships, a third, Super Bowl MVP. Like I don't think it has to be a tier of just one, I would think. And Sam did this with Andy Reid, and I said, well, if we were talking about the quarterback, I get it, right? Because I think there are other guys that could win a championship with Patrick Mahomes. But and I think that's true. I think Patrick Mahomes could go to a number of teams and you'd be good enough to win a championship. So to me, he is unequivocally number one. I mean, he does everything. He does it late in games. He does it whatever is needed. And I don't know how anybody else could be. And in fact, I think when will this change? Right? Like, and
great question. Yeah.
We're going to find out if Sam even views it this way, but like, I think it's interesting to think like, what will it take for somebody to join him in that tier? Like, it's not just knock off one Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Lamar
Jackson could have got there this year. If he had won an MVP and a championship, like I think that puts you in the same category. But to not have a ring, a lot of ways, if you're making a comparison to him, like he's starting to trend into that, like Tom Brady did later in his career, into that category of it's beyond football now, right? It's like now you're talking about the Michael Jordans, the Muhammad Alis, the Babe Ruth. You're starting to move into that kind of conversation about what his career is going to be measured by the end. So like once you start, exceeding the sport you play in, then it's like, it's not even close. So a lot of those guys are way, way behind in terms of my measurement of where they belong in tier one.
All right, Sam, what's your tier one?
Yeah, I've just got Mahomes as well. I mean, like last week, I won A and one beat it just to get in your guys' similar flow of these tiers. I wouldn't have been that accommodating this year this week if you guys did not have Mahomes just singular. I mean, there's so many different ways you could separate him, but to me, there's two primary things, which is one, he's not only won, but he's won in different ways. And the second one is that he's the only guy that even when everything else goes wrong, you can win because that guy's on the field for you. Yeah. And when I mean that, everything else goes wrong in season, as we saw a year ago, as we saw with their roster, with the weapons they surrounded him with Travis Kelce's worst year, the wide receiver core that we all criticized throughout the year. I mean that by him having the hardest playoff route that statistically by FTN that any team had ever faced in terms of DVOA, but also in game. Like he's the guy that can flip a game when everything doesn't seem to be going right. I mean, it's so easy to forget that in these Super Bowls, the Chiefs have been pretty terrible in the first half because of the way he's played in the second half. Last year alone, Patrick Mahomes had one fourth quarter comeback in the regular season the entire year. I kept talking about how bad this team was in the fourth quarter last year, just because we were so accustomed to seeing Patrick Mahomes take over games in fourth quarter. I thought it took people a lot of time to catch on to the fact that they really were not good when they were behind in fourth quarter. And by the way, they had more opportunities to have fourth quarter comebacks than they ever had in Patrick Mahomes' career. And the only fourth quarter comeback he had was against the Bengals. They trailed by 1 point in the fourth quarter, and they were on the 4-yard line in the first play of the quarter. I mean, it was gifted to him to have a fourth quarter comeback. In the playoffs, he gets two. He bucks his own trend. I mean, let alone the trends of the league. I mean, like I said, I think he's the guy that when everything else is going wrong, own team, opponent, whatever it may be, he can still just change everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I wrote a thing for a little piece we're going to have come out at work with A10, a little football magazine. You know where Patrick Mahomes is now versus where Tom Brady was at this age? Like just a couple of the highlights. Like Brady at age 28 was 58-20. Mahomes is 74-22. Brady had 123 touchdowns. Mahomes has 219. Brady had 18,000 passing yards. Mahomes has 28. Brady had never had a 5,000-yard season. Mahomes has had 2. He'd had one 4,000-yard season. Mahomes has had 6. I mean, like it is unbelievable when you get down to some of the things like the rushing numbers and the things that are out there, it's unreal how far ahead. Now it's also unreal how Tom Brady.
Yeah, the flip side of that is what happens from 35 to 45 or however long he plays, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the real thing I took out of that story is it's about time you realize the difficulty of Jeff's and my job of actually writing this material.
I do it here and there, and trust me, I recognize the difficulty of your job. Right? Smart. I'd rather just flap my gums, get the numbers there and talk about it. Talking about tier 1 when it comes to your parking lot, it's GAN Asphalt and Concrete. Kansas City's best, proudly serving the entire KC metro area. Nationally recognized full service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, they've been making them disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liabilities in your parking lot. You don't have to. Get a lot that is restriped today. Brightly striped lots cut down on accidents and keep your parking lot as safe as possible. GAN Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at ganasphalt.com. All right, so we all had our clever little tier 1 of just Patrick Mahomes. We've done our due diligence in citing his greatness. How about tier 2, Jeff? What are we looking at as we now make our way to tier 2?
My biggest tier by far, and it was the tier where I said either guys have won championships or I think they have the potential to win championships. Not all of them are, Patrick Mahomes type quarterbacks who I think could just win no matter what's around them, but I think that they have the ability. And you start with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's in that list, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, CJ Stroud makes that list after 1 year. Dak Prescott was kind of a back and forth, but finally I said, you know what? This guy played at an MVP level last year. I'll put him on that list. Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, maybe 2 reaches, given where they're at in their careers and what they've done, but the talent is there. And then Jared Goff, who I think gets he was a little bit underrated as a guy who took one team to a Super Bowl and almost has taken a second team who had a long losing record to a Super Bowl in Detroit. So I give him a chance in that list as well.
10 guys?
10 guys.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
I think I got them all. Allen, Burrow, Stafford, Jackson, Stroud.
12, actually.
12, then I'm missing a couple. Allen, Burrow, Stafford, Jackson, Stroud, Prescott, Rodgers, Purdy, Herbert, Goff.
Hurts and Love.
They had Love, yeah.
Jordan Love, okay.
And Jalen Hurts.
Got it. Okay. I can't. The only one who I'll take issue with.
Mr. Cowboy.
Yeah, and I like Dak. I do. I get labeled as a Dak hater, but I don't think he belongs up this high. I mean, don't you have to win something in the playoffs at some point? Because I put it as like the franchise. The king is Patrick Mahomes, but these are guys that you can win a Super Bowl with. In my opinion, in tier 2. And I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I mean, I hear what you're saying. And trust me, he probably was the one I debated the most, putting him this high. But I think he's beyond. My next category is guys who need help. You can just get to the playoffs with them. So, yeah, Dak, with what he's done, falls in that category. But I think he's going to end up being like a Matt Ryan type player. I think later in his career, you're going to see him maybe with a different team have more success. I think he's a winner. I think he's got the ability. I think this past year he's shown it. But I think Dallas is kind of a dysfunctional place, and it's hard to get over the top with him.
Yeah. All right. Sam, what do you got for tier 2?
Yeah, I've got, first of all, Jeff and I are sort of aligned in how we rank these guys. I just have a much, much smaller tier 2 because I think there's a couple of guys that still separate it, because the way I label this category is the guys I think still put a little bit of fear into the Chiefs, into the best team in the NFL. The guys that when Steve Spagnuolo gets up on a Thursday and talks about the way these guys can beat them, like you can take it for real. It's not just the lip service at a press conference. By the way, Jeff, none of my categories are small labels. They're all these extremely long labels.
Yeah.
But I think there's only 2 guys in that category, and it's Josh Allen and Joe Burrow for different reasons.
Not even Lamar, huh? Wow.
I put those 2 and Lamar. I thought, okay, these are the guys he's going to go with. So just
Lamar,
2 guys?
Yeah, Lamar was the one I really debated having join him. and I know we'll get to Lamar, and I guess since you guys have him ranked higher, I'll say why I did not have him in that category, which is that yes, he's got two MVPs, he's got 2 playoff wins, and in the 6 playoff appearances, his numbers are pretty terrible. I mean, a 75 quarterback rating in those 6 games. He's not been great. He's also taken 26 sacks in those 6 playoff games. Like, he's been part of the reason they're losing in the playoffs. It's not, Patrick Mahomes against the Patriots the first year where he puts up 30-some points in regulation, the team loses anyways. It's not, for example, Josh Allen against the Chiefs a few years ago in 13 seconds. He's given his team the lead for the 3rd time in the 4th quarter, and his team loses anyways. Like, he's been part of the responsible party for the reason the Ravens don't have more playoff success. And I couldn't say that about Josh Allen and Joe Burrow as much. Josh Allen, he's beaten the Chiefs the last 3 times in the regular season. He has lost to them 3 times in the playoffs, which are more meaningful games. But even when you look up those 3 games with Josh Allen, which are obviously 3 the times that he's been bounced from the playoffs, against the Chiefs 3 times, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 99 passer rating. Like, he's been fine in those games. He wasn't great this last one, although he did have 2 rushing touchdowns. He was terrific in that 13-second game that went to overtime. I still think if they win the coin flip that Josh Allen is probably eventually going to a Super Bowl rather than Joe Burrow. And then with Joe Burrow, we know his record against the Chiefs. And I just think the fact that he's actually been to the Super Bowl, we mentioned at the top of the show how few guys have done that now that Tom Brady's retired. Those 2, I couldn't quite group anyone else with them yet.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I like how you did it. And I think the reason I've got more guys, I've got quite a few in this one, is because I labeled this category as guys you can win a Super Bowl with. Yeah. Right? Like these are the guys that are good enough, and it's a bigger category than that. I understand how you did it. I've got Josh Allen and Joe Burrow for all the reasons you said, but I too have Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff. Jared Goff was a tough one. One he was not that I dislike him, but that was I really debated as to whether or not he would make this cut. Jordan Love, Matt Stafford, Lamar Jackson, and C.J. Stroud. And there's a bit of a leap of faith with C.J. Stroud. Right?
You guys have what? Do you guys have the exact same tier 2? Like, what are your
he doesn't have Dak.
I don't have Dak. I think that might be the only difference, though.
You have Jordan Love. I don't think you have Jordan Love.
He does.
Either, right? I do have Jordan Love.
Okay.
And that was Jordan Love and Jared Goff were the ones that I think they were the 2 I had the toughest time putting into this one as to whether or not they're going to be here. But I think they're better than the next group, right? The next group you're going to hear are warts. And so I could have, gone with a smaller tier 2. I think we're going to hear Sam have a whole bunch in tier 3, I'm guessing, coming up here. But I think all these guys, they're going to need – everybody needs help to get by Patrick Mahomes. But I think all these guys make plays, right? Yeah. They can spin 30 touchdowns during the regular season. They can get you in a position to play some home playoff games, and they can make plays. Goff and Jordan Love. It's a leap of faith with Jordan Love. I liked what I saw coming down the stretch from him. And Goff just is – I think he deserves more credit than he gets. I don't think he deserves the contract he got, though. I think that's going to be a killer for the Lions. They better win it now before that really starts hitting the cap.
But I say this all the time when it came to Tom Brady 20 years ago. Like, they got onto a great run at the start of that century, actually. And then Peyton Manning got a Super Bowl. Drew Brees got one. Eli Manning got one. Roethlisberger got a second. Like, there were guys who started winning them. And I think – I'm with you. I think within this group of guys you just named, 3 or 4 of those guys are going to win a championship before this decade's over. I would bet money on that.
Yeah, and I think it'll come from that list.
Yep.
Right? And so that's where I've got them. All right. By the way, we're brought to you by our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, other serious personal injuries. Their attorneys have been serving KC for more than 40 years. They don't get paid unless they get money for their client. That's right. They don't get paid unless you get paid. Northland Injury Law voted #1 accident lawyer in Kansas City. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT, H-U-R-T, to 22222. Again, if you have a case right now, text HURT, H-U-R-T, to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-5400. 4878 right now. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Again, text HURT to 22222 to get connected 24/7 with our friends at Northland Injury Law. All right, tier 3. I almost feel like Sam should lead this off because we're going to get the book. You want to take the lead here? I'm going to be doing a lot of copying and pasting.
Yeah, it's actually remarkably similar to what you guys have in your tier 2. I've got Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, and Brock Purdy. Jordan Love was actually not really a hard one for me to put in the third one. And
so what is this group though? What is
this category? Is this if most else goes right, I think they can lead you to a championship. They do need some help.
All right, give me the list again, just for
it's Stafford, Lamar, Rodgers, Herbert, Dak, CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, and Brock Purdy. The reason Jordan Love wasn't really that difficult for me is, I weighted what I saw recently pretty heavily. And the last 8 games of the regular season, he had 18 touchdowns and 1 interception, 113 passer rating over his last 8 games. It's half the season. There was just a moment in the season where it seemed to click either for him, for LaFleur and him combination. But I definitely think that he's a guy you can win a championship with, especially going into this next year with how young the Packers were a year ago. I don't know that look, all 3 of us have Brock Purdy at this sort of level. I realize you guys have the tiers labeled differently than I do. I don't know that everyone's going to agree with us on that. But he was the highest rated quarterback against the blitz a year ago. He was also the highest rated quarterback against the non-blitz a year ago. And you can credit a lot of that to coaching, but I just think some of the blitz stuff in particular is instincts. And I do think that Shanahan puts him in really good situations to say, hey, your instinct needs to be to do this if you see this. But there's just still a lot to compute when you get stuff like that thrown at you. And that's when he was at his best. And so that's the reason I put him up in this category, because I do think we're going to have some listeners that are going to disagree with us putting Purdy in the top half there.
Well, he had Patrick Mahomes on the ropes.
Yeah.
I don't know what more.
Do you think everybody would have? You guys have him in your second tier, for example. I've got him in third because I have a much smaller tier 2. But do you think that everyone would have him that high?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
I agree with you, but I think we're not everyone, right? I think we pay attention to what's going on, and you can watch him. And yes, Kyle Shanahan does a great job, but he's the perfect, instrument. He's sending the ball down the field too, 9.6 yards per attempt. Yeah. He led the league in that. It wasn't just dink and dunk, and he had a good completion percentage because he was taking everything short and safe. He completed almost 70% of his passes while leading the league in yards per attempt. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel like, I'm not trying to say he's going to be what Steph Curry is in basketball, but there's a lot of Steph Curry like Brock Purdy stuff going on where people compare Steph Curry to, he's not LeBron James, he's not Kevin Durant, he's not this or that, but the guy just kept winning games and kept doing great stuff. And then you looked up 10, 15 years later and he had a great career. Like, I think Brock Purdy suffers from the comparisons to the Mahomes, the Allens, the Burrows, because he doesn't look the part, doesn't have the pedigree. But yeah, I think people who really study football can see what he's done in the last 2 years. Ultimately, this position is about winning. He's won a lot of games in a lot of situations.
He's 17-4.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just cited Mahomes' record. This guy's even better.
It's interesting you mentioned. Jeff, your argument is basically that he's graded on a different curve, and that came up, I think, as I ranked some of the bottom tiers. We'll get to it, but I do think there's some quarterbacks that are just graded on a different curve, and it's compared to expectations for the player. And so it's an interesting argument as far as just the way he's graded, viewed against the best, because I do think some other quarterbacks are maybe graded less critically for the same reason. They're graded on a different curve.
Yeah. If you go back and look at how people talked about Tom Brady after 2004, 2005, it was the same kind of stuff. It was just like, he's not Peyton Manning, he's not this guy or that guy. And he outlasted everybody. So I think that, I think a lot of people will keep underestimating Brock Purdy until it's like 10 years down the road.
I will also point out, though, like his best year in college was like his first year, and then it's just kind of stalled. So, but we'll see if his career path ends up repeating that little cycle. All right, who do you have in tier 3, Jeff?
Tier 3 for me were the guys similar to what Sam's saying, but it's probably guys who can get you to the playoffs. They need a bunch of help to win a championship, and basically these guys are just glorified game managers. And so in that group is Kirk Cousins is like the face of that group. Baker Mayfield. Deshaun Watson has fallen into that group because of the way things have gone in Cleveland. He might be ranked higher than maybe you guys may have him, but I think the talent is still there, the ability. Tua, Derek Carr, Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson.
All right, hang on, because I'm having to go down and find some
Yes.
guys.
There's Derek Carr is really high on your list.
He was one game away from the playoffs last year.
Watson
would have been his second playoff game had he made it.
Watson, Mayfield, Tua, Carr, Geno Smith, and who else?
Kyler, Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence.
Okay. All right, I got them all.
So still no Tua in your group then?
Yeah.
No, he had
Tua's in that group.
Tua's in that group. The group as a whole was Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Tua, Derek Carr, Geno Smith, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, and Russell Wilson.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Would you trade Derek Carr for Caleb Williams?
No.
But you are on your list, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. Caleb Williams could suck. We don't know he's going to be good.
I'll take the lottery ticket over Derek Carr.
Okay.
Yeah, but I get your point, and because I'll give you my tier 3. I've got Caleb Williams in tier 3, which is a leap of faith, right? I liked how he played at USC. I think he's going to be really good, and so I put him in tier 3 for right now. Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Tua, and I wrestle with Tua being up 1, but he, without playoff wins, I can't put him up higher. Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, and Russell Wilson.
Yes, we're pretty close.
And I wrestled with Russell Wilson, but I think first of all, what do you have? 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like the numbers aren't bad. I don't know what Sean Payton's problem was. We're going to find out what he does now in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
but
contract is bad.
Yeah, I think so Russell Wilson belongs to this, but these are guys that to me are game managers, and they can get you the playoffs, but they're not going anywhere. Now maybe Caleb Williams will grow out of that. Maybe Deshaun Watson will get back to playing the way he did before. I don't really see it. I don't think Kyler Murray's going to get there. Maybe Dak will take a step forward, and I'll end up having to bump him up. But Tua is the guy that I really kind of wanted to put up a level higher. But, he's got all the weapons, and he's staying healthy for the playoff games is part of the equation. Yeah. And he wasn't 2 years ago. And then winning them when you're in there, I know it was cold, but that's what knocked him down into tier 3.
And a big part of this is that most of the guys on this list, to me, are overpaid or about to be overpaid and seriously hampering their chances of winning anything moving forward because of their contracts.
Yeah, and that's where you don't want to be, is having huge contracts on these guys. And that's why Baker Mayfield at like 3 for $100, that might be the guy who can actually advance in this one because you can put enough talent around him. But Kyler Murray's contract, I don't think you'll be able to put enough talent around Kyler Murray to make it work. I think Trevor Lawrence, the Jaguars better do it this year because I think Trevor Lawrence is like, there's your Matt Ryan. As far as I'm concerned, that's what he's looking like, and he might look like his career might be a better comparison to Kirk Cousins, but the difference is he carries that 1-1 pedigree. It's just like the way Brett Veach always wants to go get guys that he had high on his draft board. Yeah. Like they even though the player's done nothing at the stop that they had, he still has them in his head that they're a high guy. People view 1-1s like that. And Matt Ryan had that pedigree. He wasn't a 1-1, but he was number 5, I think, 4th or 5th in his draft class. So he always there's nothing special about not like truly like all-time greats. You'd be if you don't have a quarterback, you're thrilled to have Matt Ryan and have his career. But once you've got Matt Ryan, and I think the Jaguar fans realize once you got Trevor Lawrence, you really want Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And all these teams will realize that fairly quickly on all these guys. I mean, is there a guy in there on any of our lists, Jeff, because you and I are kind of going down the same path? Is there anybody in there that, the franchise doesn't really sit and think about whether or not they're going to be paying these guys? I mean, a number of them have changed teams. Dak is always a big debate as to whether or not he should be there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what these guys are.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's a great point. And also the point Sam made about Derek Carr, he's at least not as expensive as some of the other guys we're talking about. Like, at least he's got like a palatable contract to work with compared to Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray. Like, those guys are like money pits.
And frankly, he's not in this list for me. He still hadn't come up yet on mine. All right. With free consultations, no commissions, and in-house crews, Gann Asphalt and Concrete has you covered when it comes to your parking lot. Every project comes with a written warranty. They keep parking lots safe, help you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. You can find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Let's get to Tier 4. Jeff, do you want to take the honors on this? We still got a lot to come from Sam, I think it's
I'll get this out. Mine's short. Tier 4 is 3 guys for me. I call it the here today, gone tomorrow crew. These are the bridge quarterbacks and guys who I think really have played better than we give them credit for, but they're just not going to be around very long. That's Jacoby Brissett. It's Gardner Minshew. And I think Sam Darnold, with what they have around him in Minnesota, could have a pretty decent year. Now, you look at their supporting cast with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and a decent offensive line. While they're trying to get J.J. McCarthy ready to play, I think he could be a much better quarterback than we're giving him credit for.
Okay. So just 3 guys?
Just those 3. Yep.
All right. I'm going to go next because I think Sam's got to have the phone book coming here at some point in one of these categories. My Tier 4, kind of the same. I call it can facilitate the game, right? Like, basically, they'll keep the game going, and it's Derek Carr, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones' contract is a killer, but as a quarterback, he can facilitate the game. So that's my Tier 4. And I think these are guys that, like, yes, you can go out and your fans can come to the game and they'll see a professional quarterback play, but you're not winning because of these guys. I mean, no way. And you're not going to win in the postseason when you get there with any of these guys. So, they facilitate the game.
Then they should be lower on your list.
They're 4. It's Tier 4.
You got 6 tiers?
I got 6 tiers. Tier 5 is I need more information.
Well, if it's no way they can win you a playoff game, they should be lower on your list.
Okay. Well, how many guys do you think actually can win playoff games? I mean,
That's why my list. That's why my list is really bottom heavy.
Okay. Let's see what you got.
I've only got 5 guys in Tier 4, which is it's a little bit of a hodgepodge group because Jared Goff is a little bit of an outlier to this, but it's surrounded with good assets and things could get interesting. And it's Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Tua, Kirk Cousins, and I've got Caleb Williams in there too, because I would take Caleb Williams there over any guy that's not over any of the whatever it is 14 guys that are not on my list yet.
Right, but so are you saying that he is going to be good?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Oh.
I'm saying
I'm saying he's going.
I'm saying yes, he's going to be better than this year than the 14 guys I have on my list. 14 guys I've yet to name on my list. I would take him with whatever roster you have this year than the next 14 guys.
But I think you can take him just because we know what these other guys are.
Right.
Like you're just taking the door number 2 on let's make a deal. Like I don't really want to. I got a trip to Singapore. Never really wanted to go to Singapore. Let's see what's behind door number 2.
Why those guys? That's why the Derek Carrs and Daniel Joneses should be lower on your list. Because we know what we're getting out of them, and it sucks.
You have Goff, Cousins, Lawrence, Williams, and Tua here.
Yes.
Okay.
What's interesting to me about this most is that I kind of thought I'd have to argue why I didn't have Trevor Lawrence higher, but you guys were with me on that. His lack of growth from year 2 to year 3 is a bit alarming. A really high sack percentage, more INTs, fewer touchdowns. I worry about the fact that he did not take a step forward in a pretty pivotal year for most quarterbacks from year 2 to year 3.
Yeah, but I love that he's taken a rookie quarterback in this group. When you look at every other guy he picked and what they did in their first year was rather disappointing. You're saying,
but that should fit my argument though, because the rest of these guys stink. I can't imagine anyone that I've not mentioned. Anyone saying I wouldn't take Caleb Williams over that guy tomorrow.
No. What I'm saying that the possibility of Caleb Williams having a rookie year like the guys who were in the same tier, to me, is high. I think he's going to be okay, but I think he could also be mediocre.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't disagree that he could very well struggle in his first year. The guys I've got, their ceiling is mediocre. I think that's the reason why I've got him ranked higher than what's left on the list.
I actually really like your tiers. I like how you did it. It makes me think, well, maybe I should have done it that way as well. I have no complaint. I can't.
I think it's fair.
Yeah. I think it's done fairly, and especially when you qualify why you put guys where they are. It sounds good to me. I have no problem with it. All right, so tier 5. Right, Jeff, what do you got in tier 5?
Yeah, this is my prove it guys who I think could be good, but I have no clue. And that's where Caleb Williams is for me. That's where Jaden Daniels is. Bo Nix, I'm assuming he's going to be the starter in Denver. Will Levis, we saw a little bit of him in the second half of last season with Tennessee. Anthony Richardson, played 4 games, and then Bryce Young, who's got probably the best chance of this group, I think, of really doing bigger things this coming season with a better offensive line, new head coach, more offensive-minded head coach, and more opportunities to kind of be in a better situation to make plays down the field to a better receiver. So I think he represents what this group is to me. Guys who have a chance to be good, but they got some work to do.
Okay, give it to me again.
Bryce Young, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Sam, you've been kind of the outlier, so I'm going to go now because mine's going to be a little more similar to what Jeff just had. I've got Bo Nix, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Will Levis. These are all guys that came with some pedigree. They're all either have been given the starting job or will be given it very soon, but we just don't know yet what they are. And to Sam's point, so does that take tier 5 over tier 4 because there's upside? Yeah, if I were going to build a franchise, I would rather have all of these guys over Gardner Minshew, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, and Jacoby Brissett just to wait and find out. But the likelihood that these guys are going to will be better than, say, Derek Carr is actually not good, right? Like history tells us that they won't be better than Derek Carr. And so, if I were starting a franchise, if I just got the GM job, I would want these guys. If I've got to save my ass and keep the paycheck coming for the family, I'd take Derek Carr because I know we're at least going to move up and down the field to a degree, and I know what I'm getting. And so early in your GM tenure, you want these guys. You take a shot at it. When you got pressure to get wins, then you want more of a sure thing. So this is the category of all the guys that I don't know that they suck. I don't know that they're great. They've got some pedigree. But that you certainly can't count on them if you're like going to need to save your job. It's like playoffs or bust. I don't think you want any one of these guys lining up for you.
Yeah. For being a gambler, Sam's more the kind of guy that the more that he sees you, the less he likes you.
Yeah.
It's like that.
If your name is Derek Carr, that is unbelievably accurate. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What do you got in tier 5, Sam?
So first of all, I went with Jeff as far as I ranked the guys that I thought were at the top of the depth chart now. So like J.J. McCarthy doesn't appear on my list and Drake May doesn't appear on my list just for that reason, because otherwise they'd be higher up. But other than Anthony Richardson's in this group, everyone else in this group falls into these teams should be looking for a quarterback, but they don't know it yet. And that is Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith, that I mentioned. I do have Richardson in the group. Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Will Levis, and Daniel Jones. And when I mentioned earlier that I thought some guys get graded on a curve, Geno Smith has been graded on this curve of his first 10 years of his career, and he's an incredible story. Seems to be, from the outside looking into Seattle, an incredibly likable personality as well. Seems to be good with the media there. I hope I'm right on that. But he's just been graded on this "we thought Geno was done" curve. And I think this group is basically QB purgatory, that these teams are stuck until they realize that they need to move on. And look, like I said, Anthony Richardson's the one guy I'll give him another year before making that sort of statement. We have a very small sample size on Anthony Richardson. But, the rest of this group, I just think they're either locked into a bad contract or they need to look elsewhere.
Give me the list again.
I've got Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith, Anthony Richardson, Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Will Levis, and Daniel Jones.
So those two young guys, though, you think they played enough already for you to have that?
Well, I said
Richardson.
I said Richardson is the exception to it.
Okay.
We have I didn't want to put him in the sixth tier because I think he's better than the guys I have grouped there. Same as I would have had to sort of change the labeling of the group because I would have McCarthy and especially Drake May higher for the same reason. But like you, Jeff, I think that going into training camp, Sam Darnold's going to be probably taking snaps at number one, and so is Jacoby Brissett. And I don't know that, especially New England, it ends up that way. But I rank those guys because I think they have the number one jobs. Unlike Caleb Williams, who is going into training camp, the Bears have already labeled him the starter, so that's why I was able to rank him as the rookie.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I mean, I listen. Would you predict any of these guys will be a guy that will win a playoff game?
I think that the Browns' defense is so good that the Browns could potentially win a playoff game with Deshaun Watson. But that's a great way to look at my category because with the rest of the guys, I think no. My answer is no.
You don't think the Steelers can win with Russell Wilson?
I don't.
Okay.
Wow, that's hard.
Okay. All right. So
I don't think a 35-year-old quarterback suddenly has a resurgence. Okay. Especially one who made his bread and butter as a younger quarterback out of scrambling and extending the life of plays. I don't think that that's a problem that's going to be fixed.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Now, this is the bottom tier.
Yeah.
Right? Jeff, what do you got? Tier 6.
Guys, you got to move on from. It's over. One guy, Daniel Jones, New York Giants. I can't. I think you're being very generous in calling him a facilitator, and I give him credit for what he's gone through because he's had some tough breaks with injuries and not a lot of talent around him, bad offensive line. But I just think a guy whose career high in touchdown passes is 17, who's had turnover issues, who's never really come close to being the quarterback they thought he could be as a top 10 pick. It's just time to accept that he's probably going to end up spending the rest of his career as a decent backup. I think I don't know why the Giants kept him. I thought it was one of the biggest mistakes in the draft, and I don't see where it's going to get any better for them this coming year.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument for me. I couldn't. That's the best contract we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the hell they were doing there, but I think he can run an offense, right? And I'll give you my tier 6. I don't know that these guys can run an offense or they're just not very good. And I'm sorry, Geno Smith is in this category. Sam Darnold is in this category. Aiden O'Connell and Jared Stidham are the ones that I have done. Like if you're starting these guys, you have problems. And Geno Smith, to me, is a great story. I get that, but you're not winning a playoff game with Geno Smith ever. And I don't think you're probably going to get to the playoffs with him because he just can't make enough plays to do it. So it's harsh to put him there, but I feel the same way about Geno Smith in Seattle as you do about Daniel Jones. You're not going to win a championship, so why are you even messing around with this? Better off to take a young guy and let's see. Let's get some upside and see what we've got in him. So I've got those 4 in there. All right, tier 6 for you, Sam.
Yeah, mine's a combination of either like unknowns or we do know and it's just really bad. Derek Carr, Jaden Daniels would actually top the list for me because I would take the unknown over the latter. Sam Darnold, Stidham, Bryce Young, Jacoby Brissett, and then you guys ranked Aiden O'Connell. I ranked it as Gardner Minshew.
I took Gardner Minshew, yeah.
Okay. I put them both on there. I had both of them. So Carr, Jaden Daniels, Sam Darnold. Who else?
Stidham. Because the Broncos. I mean, what they call Bo Nix the third string. Great label for your first round quarterback pick.
Right.
Bryce Young, Jacoby Brissett, and then Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
So you think Bryce Young is already toast?
I think the stat that really stood out to me about Bryce Young this last year was he led the NFL in pressure to sack percentage, like the amount of pressures that resulted in sacks. And so I went back a few weeks ago and looked like who led that category the year before, since obviously Bryce Young was a rookie last year. He wasn't playing in 2022. And it was Baker Mayfield had like an astronomical percentage. It was 30% of his pressures wound up in sacks. He actually improved that by 12 points last year. And probably, a thing that wasn't talked enough about for the reason for his improvement was he improved that. He became better at sack avoidance, and he improved it to 18%, which is still a high number for Baker Mayfield. So if Bryce Young can make that sort of leap and become better just like with his own surroundings within the pocket, I think he can be better. I also just think while, the coaching staff has improved in Carolina, I don't see like that they've surrounded him with great assets yet in order to like see a big leap forward for him.
This is a big year for Bryce Young, no doubt. Right?
Yes.
You don't get like the whole Justin Fields things of like 4 years and we're still not sure. Like, by year 2 that the guys at least, okay, we can progress with this guy and start picking other positions to keep putting talent around him. Or it's like, no, we have to do whatever we can to find another quarterback. I do agree. Who will vote that Bryce Young is the real deal? Who thinks he's gonna make it?
Real deal. How do you define that?
Well, that like Carolina's not going to be picking another quarterback in 2 years.
Well, I think we know. Just I think they've got the front office that's going to be willing to pick a quarterback if that's where they need to go, even if they just took one 2 years earlier. And I don't think a lot of front offices would do that. But when you make a lot of changes in your front office and maybe this group doesn't feel responsible for the last pick, I totally agree with you, Soren. I think it's a big year for him, but whether or not he's going to be starting in year 3.
Yeah. He's the most compelling one. I love Derek Carr and Sam Darnold. You don't think Carr is better than Sam Darnold?
Derek Carr has played in one playoff game in his life, and I can't even say he's a bad playoff quarterback because the sample size is so freaking small, but he lost it. He's never won a playoff game, and he's only reached one, and he's 30.
How many playoff games Justin Herbert played in so far?
He's going to be 33 years old.
How many has Herbert played in?
How old is he?
But
33 years old.
I hear what you're saying.
159 games. Like, we've seen enough of Derek Carr.
Well, I think also he being the Raiders quarterback is not good. Like he has put up.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But by the way, Herbert's matched him. He's played in one, right? I mean, he played in the
it's
one
all caught up.
The Jaguars.
It's all caught up.
Jaguars came back.
So let's put Herbert, way up the list, which we all did. I think we all see that the Chargers have been a hot mess. Like the team you're on matters.
Yeah. It does, and I will say that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Matthew Stafford is probably a better comp. He's more talented, but that was always argued with Eager, right? How many playoff games has he been in? He gets on a good team and he wins a championship.
Yeah, but I will say Herbert's a great example of. There were a few guys that I think, even though the three of us did not have debate about, it's the reason I brought up, some of those other guys as far as Purdy, Lawrence, and I think Herbert fits in that same category. As there's going to be people watching us, I think, that disagree with the three of us on where we ranked those three guys, because there's a lot of debate about those three players. I find it really kind of fascinating that the three of us found them in a very similar position here.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Remember, we're always brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's best. They've been solving parking lot problems for 30 years, since 1994. If it involves a parking lot, they can fix it, whether you're building brand new or you just got problems. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And our friends at Northland Injury Law. If you've been hurt in an accident, text HURT to 22222. Again, that's HURT, H-U-R-T, to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-HURT. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. We're talking about Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers. So for Jeffri Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com, Sam McDowell for the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here